Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 26th of July, year 2023. Let's get started on our Facebook Live session. I'm welcoming the panel. Today we have Rob here, who's a book author and has been on our panel on a regular basis recently. Welcome, Rob. Good evening. And then we have Michelle, who's part of our core group of meditators. Good evening, Michelle. And then we have Patricia here as well, who's part of a core group of meditators. So let me read this question. It's pretty long. It was posted in one of the Facebook groups that we are a member of. So here the question says, Eckhart said the mind is like a cloud that only wanted to pass by. However, sometimes the mind sounds so real and it describes the reality that we are experiencing right now. So even if I notice the mind, it might not change the reality that we experience. Like my boss will rant again. My husband will cheat, hurt me again. My family will put so many unrealistic expectations again. He or she will hurt me again. As if it becomes a daily habit because we've experienced it before, so we know it will happen. So the question is, so what makes it different when, even though we can notice the mind, those things that usually happen to me will happen again? Does that make sense, Rob?
Yes, it does. It
Thank you.
points to the ultimate problem that we all have, and that is understanding that connection to losing that habitual process, that we have this connection to the habitual thoughts and the conditioned mind, and we're connected to the emotions, and these things are strong and they're very believable. And so if something in the past has occurred, our mind stores this as, oh, this type of event leads to this type of injury or emotional hurt. And automatically, without us even paying attention, this thing consumes us, and it starts to steer our emotions through these thoughts from the past. And then we lump everything in the present moment, or everything that we think might happen in the future, into this category. Subconsciously, the mind is just lumping this in there, and it's in this protection mode because the body feels these emotions that are so absolutely real and painful. And so the mind is doing its best job to protect us from this future event occurring again. And what we don't realize is that the mind has gone off on its own path, its own pattern, and we kind of just blindly followed it. And eventually we get to a point where we can separate ourselves from this reoccurring patterns in the brain that just keep arising, and claiming that this moment in the future, that the mind has now predicted is going to be a horrible event based on the past. We now can stay conscious and awake through this moment. We can wait for that future moment to come. Here it comes. It's here. I'm actually in it. I'm very present. I'm conscious. And then I say, oh, wait a minute. At the end of this thing, the fear, the anxiety, and the depression that once consumed me was speaking as if it was going to be a slaughter. It was speaking to my insides as if it was going to be just in a horrible event. And when we sit through it consciously, we're able to recognize that it's not as bad of an event as our mind predicted it to be. And the more we believe the mind, the deeper that emotional connection is, and then the stronger that value is within us. And so we need to sit through these moments awake and conscious and aware and witness and say, okay, look at this body reaction I'm having right now. I don't want to be hurt. I'm being told that this is a thought and it's a moving cloud. And I'm being told that this is not part of me, but it's painful and it's hurtful and I feel it and it hurts. And if we can stay conscious through that moment leading up to that event, whatever future event we're concerned about, and then stay conscious through it. On the other side of that, there seems to be some clarity, and at least for my own self, I witnessed that the emotional distress that overtook the body was nowhere near what the actual circumstance really was. It was overinflated. And I think it gets worse and worse. It overinflates. The emotions compound, like compounding interest. It just doubles, triples in size after a while if we don't pay attention to it. And it's really hard to get out of that train of thinking and away from that. But once we have those couple of few moments of clarity and awareness, and we recognize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't quite as horrible or horrific as the mind is making it, then that opens up that window so that we can find that peace more and more and more. So that's how peace becomes the way. Rather than changing the circumstances, we're looking into the mind and recognizing that the mind took us off on this crazy avenue, and maybe I should just follow this peaceful center that I've found, and it expands over time.
So when they say the reality we experience right now, however, sometimes the mind sounds so real. I don't think the mind, unless we are non-judgmentally observing what's going on, it may be that the mind is actually interpreting what's going on. That is the unreality. When Eckhart says the mind is like a cloud, what I feel is when we are judging or interpreting reality for what it is, right? Somebody, like we are on this video, and supposing Patricia suddenly like winces like this, and I say, oh, she doesn't like me anymore. She's like making a face at me. Right? That is the cloud that Eckhart is talking about.
And the cloud can be a positive thing too. I mean, I just wrote about like this first paragraph I put in there that, you know, I dream of the best dream ever. And so that the mind can be influenced in either direction. I agree.
Right. Thank you, Rob. But I just wanted to point out that somebody's saying sometimes the mind sounds so real. It's actually not real until I feel we need that witnessing faculty of the presence to observe what the mind is actually saying, or what is the layout that it's putting through, right?
So I feel like when the unconscious mind, when we're consumed completely by the unconscious mind, there is no separation between the two. That connection it's painful. I've been through suicidal depression. It's a dark place. It's absolutely painful. I know that connection. I know many people do. I was completely identified with it. But the moment that an awareness opens up and we have that conscious ability to start pulling the layers of the onion back, or just starting to expose some of this ever so gently and small. It's like watching the grass grow. You can't see the grass grow if you're staring at it. I couldn't see the improvements in my life while I was going through them. But over time, now that I look back, I can see, wow, I was really consumed and identified with those thoughts in the mind. And now I'm a lot less identified with them.
Great. Thank you so much.
Hey, Rob, you're always the last to see it.
Right.
Yeah, everybody else will see it, but you'll be the last.
That's very true.
Thank you, Hugh. Thank you, Rob. Let me go to Michelle. Grateful for your input, Rob. Amazing. Michelle, did you want to say something about this? Thank you.
Yeah, I think from like when I'm reading here, from an intellectual standpoint, she seems to understand it. It's just when you're in the heat of that moment, you know, whether it's the spouse or the sister or the boss, the reactivity kicks in, right? You lose the consciousness, and then just the reactivity kicks in, and then the thought takes you on a ride, right? And those are the clouds. And then, you know, you're interpreting an email that someone wrote to you, and that's happened at work. I remember you get an email or a phone call, someone leave you a message, and you start thinking about the question or whatever they're bringing up, and you would inflate the problem in your mind, and then you'd have to respond, and whether it's by written format or a phone call, and like, oh, that got resolved like right away, like without any drama, right? So sometimes what happens is like, and then that's what, like, if you're able to bring witnessing in that moment, you know, as you're inflating the story, then you could say, okay, this has happened to me before. I don't have to buy into the thought, right? This is the way it's going to go. You can kind of, like a horse, right? Pull on the reins of the mind and say, hey, hold on a second, you know, let me give this a chance. Let me call it, like, you know, and just figure out what's happening. And it could be such an easy resolution, right? So once you start witnessing like that is a recurring theme, right? You make this big thing out of it, and then you call and it's resolved, and then you see it and maybe in a different environment, and the same thing happens. Then you can trust it. Maybe it's my mind that's just really blowing it out of proportion. And so that witnessing presence, little by little, you start to trust it more and more, and you just say, okay, I don't need to really buy into it. And you know, now there may be other triggers that are pain body react. It's much more easily to react. And those require real concerted presence at that moment, not to do it. I think there's different levels, maybe. I mean, it's the same format, the same structure is in place, but there just may be certain things that get us more easily, right? That take us to an extreme a little bit more easily. And it's just practicing. And then when we fall off the wagon, you know, we offer compassion. And then there's also, I think, some acceptance here, right? Because if she's in an experience like with the husband, will he cheat or hurt me again? You know, if this is a repetitive behavior, then okay, accept it. This is the way he is. And then you have to make a decision whether you want to stay in the relationship, or are you just going to continue to accept it, you know, on those terms. And then the power is with you to be able to change, because you can't make that person change his behavior. They have to want to change the behavior. So the only thing you can change is the way you're going to respond to it, right? And you don't have to, you know, we don't have to form, right? We can leave in a very peaceful way. We make the decision if we're going to go ranting and raving, right? And like the Hollywood stories, it's like burn the clothes and throw them out the window, right? Or are we going to, like, you know, say, okay, you know, this is what you've chosen and I don't want to live with this anymore. And, you know, the high quality no, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think intellectually, as I said, I think she understands. It's just once she gets triggered, you know, how she's going to respond, you know. And many times, and I'm not saying it's always going to happen, but many times if you bring that presence to the situation, it's usually not as bad as we tend to think that it's going to be, right? It usually has a way of softening its way out. So thank you.
Thank you. Incredible. Thank you so much for your input. Grateful for it. When she says I loved your example about the workplace situation that you get the email and it sounds, to me, at my last job, if you write 2 or 3 emails back and forth, like 2 people are going back and forth, like on a project team, they're going back and forth, like a ping pong, right? They're just writing emails to each other. I just tell them, stop. I'm going to arrange for a call. We'll get on a call and resolve this. No more emails, right? Because people interpretation through email is, again, back into that cloud that Eckhart is talking about, that you're the sky, the awareness is the sky, and here are the clouds, which is the mind. The other thing I feel, Michelle, like where she says, my boss will rant again. My wife, husband will cheat, hurt me again. My family will put so many unrealistic expectations again. That's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Again, back to the cloud. If you have the cloud so the question at the bottom, so what makes it different, even though we can notice the mind, what makes it different is not to notice these thoughts, is not to run our default mode network, right? Don't run the default programs where you're thinking these thoughts that my boss will rant again, and that my husband will cheat, or my wife will cheat, or my family will put so many unrealistic expectations. Like, don't have that thought. That's what the whole teaching is about, is be thoughtless awareness, be that choiceless awareness that Krishnamurti says, so that you don't manifest this where your husband is cheating on you, or your wife is cheating on you, or your boss is ranting against you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we're just putting it out in the universe, right? And it's making it happen. I mean, there's that too, right? There's a little bit
Yes.
of everything. So you have to notice your own tendencies, right? And be very observant of where your thoughts are headed. If you're always going to the doomsday scenarios, right? Then doomsday will hit, right? So if you don't entertain doomsday, you turn off, like sometimes your mind will start saying, well, oh, like somebody today, I was at the gym and we were talking about a movie, and then they said, I didn't know what the movie was about. Yeah, it's about sex trafficking. And so she has a little daughter, and she goes, I'm always very careful in the grocery store. I'm always like holding her hand all the time when I'm going to pick something. Like, and then again, it's like, okay, like, do we want to open that? Yeah, you could be, okay, I'm going to be careful, whatever. But if we're paranoid, if we're, you know what I mean? There's a fine line there where, you don't want to entertain, you don't want to be, you don't want to be totally, ignorant of what's happening in the world. But, but when you have this hypervigilance or this paranoia towards a situation, we may be attracting it towards us versus, saying, I'm going to be careful, but everything's going to be fine. Right. So it's a fine line, it's a fine line. And only, I think, intuitively, if we're very vigilant, can we figure out, where we are on the line, And one other thing, in regards to work and emails and stuff, I remember I would always tell, I worked in a nonprofit helping families with families that had children and adults with disabilities. And a lot of time there was contentious incidents between the school system and a parent, right? So I would tell the parent, I said, listen, write the first email, put everything you want to say at it, just write it, don't send it. Don't let it be your therapy, and then go back and edit it. And when you reread that, sit as if you were the person receiving it. And how do you think they would respond, right? So that was a lot of, like, you have to be a lot of self-awareness, because what you want to do is you want a good result, and you're never going to get a good result by attacking the other person head on, right? You need to state it in a very professional, non-emotional way. So sometimes the emotion just, people don't filter, people don't read as if they're being the receiver of whatever, or even on a phone call, right? That's why, social media can be tricky, because people, in a sentence, and I'm like, you can't read past a sentence unless you're really careful about the emojis or something, because it could be interpreted in a million, in different ways. So
Hey, Michelle, that's
Anyway.
exactly what we did. I used to run a crew down at Naval Academy, and I had my team there, and I said, look, when these people send these emails over and they fire you up, do not respond. I want you to respond, but send it to me or send it to yourself, but don't respond. I said, and then I make them read it the next morning, and they're like, I can't believe I responded like that. I was so emotional, caught up in it. And I said, yeah, you'd have really made a nice ass of yourself if you'd let that go. But that, like Penny was saying before, you keep going back and forth, and you just keep, the ego takes over on both ends, and it just keeps volleying back and forth, and it just gets out. Plus, like you mentioned, it's misinterpreted, a lot of it, you know, and it just escalates. But yeah, you'd be surprised on how many people that I did that with, they were just blown away of how they would have responded. And they, of course, they thank you, you know, because I mean,
Yeah.
it would have been a disaster if they really would have responded right then and there, you know, but I can relate. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. That was incredible. So to your point about the lady with the daughter that had that she would hold on to her daughter, right? Eckhart's, so this is called, what you're telling her, or I don't know if you actually provided her with that guidance, that the more she intends it, the more it will happen for sure. Because that's called selective perception. Eckhart has this talk, the source of all trust. And he talks about this concept of selective perception. That's almost like, you know, when we are driving and we say, I'm going to see a yellow Volkswagen buggy. I'm going to see and now we are seeing just a yellow Volkswagen buggy, right? The more she puts that thought out, it will happen. And the example Eckhart gives is Sting supposedly told him that one day Eckhart asked Sting, why don't you have any security, protective, what do they call them? Personal security, right?
Security guards.
The security guards, right? Why don't you have any, or why don't you carry a gun? And he said, Sting said, the moment you put a gun in your pocket, then you are inviting those kind of characters in your life. Right?
Totally
So
agree.
look at the wisdom of Sting.
Like,
Such a celebrity, and that's the wisdom of Sting. So that's an offer to everyone. The moment we put that intention out that something is going to happen, it will happen. So thank you so much, Michelle. I actually, during Friday group meditation, we talked about this. It's since you brought up the topic, Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins have been funding and supporting this person, Tim Ballard, who rescued, I don't know, hundreds of children from sex trafficking, since you brought up the topic. And they actually created a movie called Sounds of Freedom. That's
the movie we were talking about. She had seen it. That's
executive produced by Tony Robbins. He's the executive producer of Tony Robbins. Ashok and I were talking
I wasn't
about
there
it.
I wasn't there on Friday.
That's right. You were not there on Friday. So we
that's
talked
how
about it this Friday. Yes. But it is Tim Ballard. So Tony Robbins has done an interview. Lewis Howes has done an interview with Tim Ballard. Dean Graziosi has done a podcast interview, like on YouTube. If you look for Tim Ballard and Dean Graziosi, Tim Ballard and Tony Robbins, you'll see there. And I've shared it on my social media as well, because it's a topic that should be discussed, right? To bring awareness. And if somebody does not know what the movie is about, he's a CIA agent, I think, working for Homeland Security. And he was supposed to go, he was doing some work towards protecting children. And then he wanted to protect some children, and the Homeland Security said, no, we don't do that kind of work in Colombia. So he said he talked to his wife and got out of the job and started this personally, like creating funds and rescuing children He
Wow.
adopted 2 children from Haiti, like the most incredible story, personal story of what he's done, but he's supported by Sage and Tony Robbins. So, oh my God, like incredible.
Now I have to watch the movie. Now I have to
I-
watch the movie.
I'm waiting for it to come on DVD or online
Yeah.
somewhere where I can buy it, but watch it that way. But wanted to make everyone aware of that topic as well, since you brought it up. It's a very, very, if you look at the depths of evil, that I would think would be the depths of evil. And he went to Ukraine, then he was explaining why wars happen, because wars affect children. That's the time when all these predators can actually feed on children, right? Children are vulnerable. Most wars and natural disasters create orphans. And they are prime ground for predators to kind of like main feeding ground, right? We don't even think of that's what the world is doing by engaging in war. We say, oh, go for war, go to Iraq, go for war, go to this place, go for war. But we are not realizing what we are doing by making, as a country, by making that choice to go for war. We're creating a breeding ground for children to become orphans.
Yeah, it becomes like a domino effect of negativity throughout the society,
Mhm.
and very challenging repercussions, not just, the destruction of war, but so many levels.
Mhm. Thank you for bringing that topic up.
Yeah.
Go watch the movie. Patricia, did you want to say something about this topic? Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Great points, everyone. There's a lot of layers to that question. And what came up for me is that the first thing, what makes it different is that you have a choice. So if you notice something, you're not in it. It's like you become someone. And yes, I think in the beginning, because you are still in the same vibration of the conditioned pattern that attracts those events, in the beginning, it still may repeat itself, but by bringing the presence and becoming more of an observant, I think it's losing its power. And the way I did really experience this for me, but through meditation and being in present power more and more, I still notice this. And I also notice my feelings towards, I was resisting it. So then instead of the event, I was concentrating, let's like, what is resisting it? Why am I resisting it? And who is really resisting it? Is it my ego or is it the divine part of me? It's like, so once you start understanding that you actually have a choice in that moment, then you can choose a different response. You can choose to just sit with it. You can choose to meditate on it. You can choose to pick up a different, more positive thought. Let's say, oh, my boss will be angry with me. But then when the boss actually does it, saying, thank you. Thank you. This will give me more. It's like, what's happening here? Observation, so gratitude. I think that's the vibration that I started unlocking more and more by just being thankful the first thing in the morning for everything. And then the gratitude changes everything. Somehow, even responding to an email. Right now, I practice this all the time. No matter who says what for an email, asking me or complaining on everything, the first word I write is thank you. thank you for this, thank you for that. And then, you know, it's changed me completely. So we still have to live in this reality. But by knowing that we co-creating it, in that very moment, we can change the vibration of the situation. So amazing things happen. So that's what makes it different. Noticing is one thing, but also observing your body. Like, okay, I'm noticing it, but is my body happy about noticing it, or is just scared, anxious, fearful that it's gonna happen again? It's like, okay, so let's see where in the body that emotion sits. Is it my stomach? Is it my heart? And then just concentrating on that. And Rupert Spira actually helped me a lot with that, because I remember the talk that Nipunam sent. His question was, in that moment, on whose behalf are you feeling that? And all of a sudden, that awareness, like, that's my little ego that's scared, but I'm not it. It's like the separation that Rob was talking about happens naturally just by asking yourself that question. And then, yeah, in the present moment, Eckhart's one of the portal is to feel your body. So in that moment, when you're noticing the thought, just do something like breathe consciously, or wiggle your toes, like Kelly says always, like do something to put you back so the thought loses its momentum. Because I think it's what law of attraction says, that any thought that comes, if you don't give it attention, it's gonna lose its momentum within like 16 seconds. It's actually, so just, okay, boom, I have a thought that my wife's gonna cheat. Thank you, bye-bye. I'm not that person. I'm not, you know, like, see that you can just let it go, that you're not one with it. Don't give it energy. Eckhart says, what you resist persists. So if I see the thought and I'm resisting the thought, that will keep bringing the thought. I remember I was very little and I had nightmares, and I was trying to figure out how not to think of a thing I don't want to think about. It's like, how am I not going to think about? And then I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. So someone said about how to play with the mind, in a sense, like how to say there is no crocodile in the pool. The minute you say there's no crocodile in the pool, you see crocodile, right? So you're gonna be scared. So replacing it, there is a little frog in the pool. So then you're feeding your mind a positive image versus saying just no of something. So just, I know that Kelly mentioned that on this in this dual reality, polarities, in the beginning, noticing the negative is not enough. You kind of have to maybe replace it or present it something positive to put next to each other. It's like, and now I have a choice. Do I want to go with the negative, or maybe I can choose the positive? And this is the same thing that Caesar always talk about stick, you know, having the stick, what end of the stick are you? So in the beginning, that's very important, to be consciously moving to something you want, away from something you don't want, because it's all vibrational. But meditations, definitely, the more you meditate, the more space open up, and bringing yourself to the vibration of higher vibrations, of being more whole. Those thoughts will just not naturally stop coming, because the vibration will be different. You will be, you know, open to other positive things, like, oh my God, the world is for me. So, but in the beginning, it's tough. I've been there for a long time, and probably all of us experienced that, okay, my first step is to notice, but then I don't want to notice because I did not like it. And just by having all these emotions connected to it, I was sucked into it over and over again. But just concentrating on that didn't help me. I had to have meditation practice, presence practice, and then knowing that in that moment I had a choice. And not beat yourself up, like Michelle said, and compassion is like, okay, I had this thought again. I forgot myself. I lost it. I cried. I was upset. I love myself anyway. So it's so amazing. It's such an amazing question, because it's like, whoa, almost all our talks, when you think about it, and Q&A can be some kind of link to answering that question. Having a soul's contract here, it's like, okay, you're going to be learning that lesson until you learn how to take yourself out of this equation. And the only person that can do it, it's you. With the grace will open up the opportunities. And noticing it is an opportunity, because you suffer, you don't want it, right? You don't want it, so there's a suffering involved. So suffering can be very useful at that point, until it's not, like Eckhart says, until it's not necessary anymore. So thank you.
Beautiful. Amazing. Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you for you've touched on like so many different topics that I lost track of. What tip did you give here and here and here and here?
Gratitude.
They were like,
Gratitude. I just want the only thing that I would like this person to remember, attitude will make a difference. I mean, gratitude, I'm sorry, gratitude. So actually noticing and being thankful that you notice. Thank you. Thank you. There's an information there.
thank you. I'm grateful for your input, because you touched base on the fact that, yeah, in the beginning, it will be difficult to overcome it. Now, at the level that you are, you give the perfect example, practical example. Now you can see and you can let go of the thoughts. But initially, it will be like this person, it'll happen over and over again.
Suck you in it.
Right?
So you got to make tools. You got to learn tools. And Eckhart says it about this too, that in the peaceful time, when none of those thoughts happen, make sure that you build up some kind of practice. So when the bad stuff happens, your mind will also give you that choice to go the other way. So you'll have something to choose from. So
Right. Have the presence power, practice your presence power when you are in a meditative state and nothing is going wrong. There are no challenges in life, so that you can bring that same presence when the challenge happens.
Dr.
Right?
Joe says, remember. I mean, that is so powerful during his meditation. So you reach that wonderful state when you unlimited, you everything, your heart grows. And he said, remember, because in those stressful moments, it will be there for you to choose instead of being sucked into the ego.
Remember that feeling. Yes. And remember that feeling even for the next meditation, because you can go that I know how I achieved that feel of unconditional love. Now let me bring it again and see if I can come to that unconditional love again.
All of us wants to be there. All of us, it's like even
all the time.
One of his talk, if you went in that state, you would say, I don't want it anymore. I don't think so, because you want more of it. So you will never choose the negative states anymore, because who
Right.
would in the right mind, right, want it there? No, we all trying to avoid suffering by going for, drugs, alcohol, food, TV, everything. So if we actually have something like that bliss and happiness and freedom, that just will happen naturally without destroying our bodies and our relationships.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hugh, did you want to contribute to this discussion and say something?
Yeah, why not?
Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
It's funny when I get involved with someone that's angry, the first thing I do, as far as being triggered or whatever, I go into analytical mode. So I know that, you know, if I hit you in the arm with a hammer, that's pain. If I hit you with an insult, that's mental pain. Pain is pain, right? So I instantly go in the analytical mode, which bypasses the reaction, you know, just saying that to myself. And like Patricia said, then you can go meditate on it, or you can do whatever. But I don't even, you know, it's like I won't even address it. I'll act like they're not even talking to me. I'll just continue on with a normal conversation. And it usually, it's an awkward situation. I mean, it's happened a couple times, but I've gotten really good at getting punched in the face, mentally with my elderly parent, you know, where I just process, and I don't react. I mean, I come a very, very, very long way with that, you know. And then here recently, because I mean, that question it's got a lot going on with that question. You know, it talks about, I guess, abuse in a relationship or arguing, whatnot. But I must say, after this week, the best person I can argue with is my daughter. She's awesome, because it's like we got into a skiff right in the doctor's office, and so she's so mature. It's like, I mean, she's the perfect one to argue with. I mean, it's like I went off a little bit, and she went off, and she goes, "That's it, we're done. Next." I'm like, "How about them O's?" We just went on to the next conversation. It was like, it could have turned into a real egotistical battle, you know, because I was pissed that she went to the doctor behind my back. You know, it was stupid. But I mean, bottom line is, I wasn't conscious. I'm the one that provoked it. She was the one under control, not me, you know. But it was one of them things. Now, relationships. You know, I'm with that Eckhart. It is what it is. And I've had relationships, and I'm telling you, I mean, I could be wrong here, but you guys can just jump in and correct me. But I look at it like, how could somebody want somebody that doesn't want them? So when someone's disrespecting them, you know, it's like, well, actually they don't want them, or they're breaking up. I mean, I've seen people just go out there and throw themselves on the ground and please, 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 I want the relationship, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know how somebody can do that, you know, where maybe it's the defense mechanism. For my case, I always say it is what it is, move on. And it's almost like it never happened. I just don't react. Now I'll get it. In the past, I got accused of not caring enough or not doing whatever. I'm just not pursuing a shit show. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to pursue something I know that's not going to work. And I'm good, you know, but apparently other people think that's cold or what? I mean, where do you draw the line there? You know?
The answer I have for you, Hugh, is from Carolyn Mace. I don't know if I ever discussed it on Facebook Live Q&A. I may have spoken about it in my tip of the day or during group meditation. But Carolyn Mace says that every person has 4 definite archetypes, which is the victim, the saboteur, the prostitute, and the child. And mostly it's a wounded child. It could be like Jesus, she says, is the divine child, right? He lived that archetype of a divine child. So she says it is the prostitute archetype in us that does that kind of stuff, where we say, the woman says, the man is cheating, the man is drunk, alcoholic, beating her kids and everything, and the woman still stays with the man. She's selling her self-esteem. She has low self-esteem, doesn't know how to get out of that marriage, right? So she just stays continuous, and this is like 20 years later, 25 years later, and she's still married to that same man. Reverse can happen too. I'm not saying, I'm just using an example, right? Some women are that way too, with their really beat up their husbands and whatnot. So when somebody's groveling like that, their prostitute archetype, like they don't have, like this presence is not flowing, right? They don't know the life that they are. So they are completely identified with an image which has low self-esteem, right? And when they have low self-esteem, then they'll grovel. They'd say, okay, stay with me, please. And it's like the other one that can intertwine with this is what she calls it as a vampire kind of archetype, which is like a codependent archetype.
Right.
Like there's a codependency there as well. So that's what's playing. It's just energy formation.
And it's
It's
funny
not
you say that because that particular individual that was throwing herself on the ground, she wound up coming back to me and said, "Oh, I went to the shrink. I'm codependent. I have this big problem," and she, you know, it was all.
It's like you can read them. Like she said, like you can like build that intuition, and the moment you see their behaviors, you can read them. That's what psychics do, right? They're reading an energy pattern. They're reading these energy patterns in them. And she's a medical intuitive, right? Just like medical medium Anthony William, Carolyn Mays is a medical intuitive. She can look at somebody and say, okay, you have this because of this at the metaphysical level. You have this disease because of this, right? So that's what Carolyn Mays has been doing. She's like 72 or 74 years old. She's been doing it for 40, 50 years now. The same as Anthony William is actually younger. So Carolyn Mays has been doing medical intuition much more longer than Anthony William.
And it's funny, I even dated a psychologist, right? And when I finally come to the conclusion that let's be mature about it, this is not going to work, right? And the woman went, and the same pattern. It's like, oh no, you can see whoever you want, you can do whatever. And I'm like, man, wait a minute. Oh, you don't want to do that. I said, you know, and it's she kept going on and on. And I said, you know something? I think you need to see a psychologist. She goes, oh no.
You need to see a therapist, right?
Yeah, and to this day, we're really good friends. Matter of fact, she just came over to see me. Hey, how you doing? You know, but it wasn't like it was a big upsetting departure, you know, but
right.
It's really about getting to know each other. But not to change the subject once, I went to like another support group, right?
Mhm.
And they did a meditation, right? And this is the craziest thing. I haven't done the Friday nights. It's just a little too late for me, but so I'm an analytical person, you know. I track I was a technician. I'm always proving stuff, and I mean, I got thousands and thousands of dollars worth of testing tools and whatnot. So of course I have a pulse machine, right? So I'm just watching, you know, because I was just amped up before this meditation. And so my pulse is like hitting 110, which is high, you know. But when I got done this meditation, it dropped to 77. And what did it was, when you inhale, what they were doing, they were making you say, on the exhale. Have you ever done that? Where you breathe in through the nose, and then you whatever the hell that is, it'll drop your pulse big time. And they called it something. I didn't catch on to it, but I'm going to go back and find out. But she referred to it as something deep inside you.
Okay.
But it's interesting because I mean I've seen it work. I mean it worked.
Awesome.
You know, so just something I just figured I'd share with you guys. You know.
Did you do it? Did you do the pulse meter during your healing session on Friday?
Yeah, that was cool. I went to the healing thing.
What was the pulse saying then?
I was relaxed from the time that thing opened to the time it closed. I mean, when it opened, so yeah, guys, I went to this healing, right? And I'm thinking, well, I'll take anything right now, right? And I'll tell you, man, when you see like 20 some people and most of them live, like you guys, you know, they care and they don't even know you, you know, it's you can feel so much love, you know, and it was overwhelming. I mean, not in a sad way. I didn't get emotional, but like I have in the past here out of nowhere, but which I never done my whole life actually. But yeah, it was just like a real beautiful situation, you know. I wasn't expecting that really. And I did it made me feel more grounded, no doubt about that.
Awesome. You should sign up for some more between
Oh.
your
Yeah,
treatments.
I
Whatever
didn't-
treatments you have, just find a slot where you can sign up for more and let them know that because you're going through the treatment, you need a few more healing sessions back to back.
Yeah, I
Right.
do. Yeah, I do. I got surgery tomorrow for my feeding tube, and then next week it starts. So,
Okay.
but yeah. But yeah, yeah, that was really something. I was surprised.
Wishing you a speedy recovery.
Hey, Rob. Now you're gonna kill me. Now, Rob just went through a breakup, right? And so, how did you? So, what happened there as far as you know what I mean? Do you feel like it was like it is what it is sort of thing, or you're not going to get tied up in it? It's just, you know, it's like,
Who went through a breakup? I want to hear this. What happened now?
oh yeah, he's got chicks all over the place, man. That guy. No, I'm teasing you. Now he was. Now he just went through a breakup, and I just was curious about.
And you've been saying that so casually. No, I'm sorry that you went through a breakup. I'm so sad for you.
I
Really feel
is that
for
what I'm supposed to
you.
say?
That's what we all are supposed to say.
I'm learning. But no, I mean, so
We're sorry to hear that, Rob.
so how do you process that on your end? I'm curious.
Wow. Okay. That's a right flank.
Welcome.
I recognize that I'm the creator of my reality. And I recognize that I bring into my existence all that I am vibrationally on the inside. And when I'm met with certain things in life, I'm meeting my vibrational equivalent. And I can't stay at that vibrational level. And it just wasn't meant to be. And at some point that was made known to both of us. And emotionally, it's not easy. Emotionally, you know, I'm heartbroken. I don't want to hurt another human being or myself. And I do recognize that I'm the creator of this. I want to get my vibrational reality on the inside where it needs to be before I enter another relationship. And that's number one priority. And I don't think I had that going into this last relationship. I didn't have that awareness that I was bringing in my own reality, and I now know that. And so now when I have my eyes open for that next partner in life, I'm gonna look at it differently. I'm gonna come at that differently with the unconditional love of self that I've learned for my own inner child or inner self or deeper self. I'm gonna try to utilize that in the next relationship. So emotionally, it was tough, but I take full responsibility.
But I mean, so basically, you talked about the energy. So we all know when you start a new relationship, it's like you're 16 years old again. So that sort of can cloud everything. You know what I mean? It's like you want to see things that aren't there. You know, like you just assume you assume you're seeing yourself in them, and it's not
Exactly.
it doesn't really always happen that way. It's sort of
I like to look at it like it was I'll speak for myself, and that was that my unconscious reality was connecting to her unconscious reality. And you're right. The way you phrased that is exactly right. I was seeing beyond the vibration that wasn't meant to be, and I was looking for something that really wasn't there, and that's completely me. I own that.
hey, I'm guilty too. I mean, you know, I mean, you're a lot. I mean, you're deeper than me as far as really you're more aware deeply than me. That's why I asked you put you on the spot, because I learned from you, you know.
You did put me on the spot. I got a little bit of sweat up here, but
We're testing your speaking skills.
You're killing me.
Under stress, under stress. So the only advice I would have is, one, I'm really sorry, Rob, for what you're going through. But
Thank you.
One thing that I've learned from Byron Katie and Stephen Mitchell, right? Excuse me. It may be true for, I don't know how true it is for Kim Eng, but Eckhart is that way. I don't think Eckhart needs Kim. I don't think Eckhart is needing Kim to fulfill himself. He just may have a marriage, right? Because society, he's 75 or 76 years old. He's from that generation. But I don't think he needs Kim. Kim may be in that position, but Kim, I don't know how much. Kim is still like a normal human being, right? She's not as awakened as Eckhart. I feel Byron Katie and Stephen Mitchell are that way. That Byron Katie knows she doesn't need Stephen Mitchell. She says in one of the books in Loving What Is, or she talks about a ring that her wedding ring, she would always give it away. Then he asked her to keep one of the wedding rings. She said, I'll keep it as long as I can. I don't know next time what's going to happen. I may give it away. But she kept it. And the same thing, she says, he's my husband for now. I don't know, like for now that this is the case. Like very present moment, this is the present moment that for now he's my husband, but is it going to be that way tomorrow? She doesn't know, but she says he's my husband and partner for now, right? Very, very honest about it. So it almost is like, get to that level of unconditional love within you that you don't need anybody. Then find the relationship.
Yes, good point. And I was looking for myself in her, and I did have that sense of neediness for another relationship. And
Right.
You're absolutely correct.
This is what I keep telling Patricia, keeps bringing up relationship, right? And I keep saying, get to that unconditional love first, because if there is a little bit of lack, right, we'll get into this getting approval. So I'll play a role. I'll be kind of like this, like Hugh was saying, right? We become like that 16-year-old that wants to buy that box of chocolates and buy the flowers, and you start to play a role. You're not your authentic self, right? Let me be my authentic self. Like Byron Katie says, right? If Stephen Mitchell asks her, honey, let's go to a movie, she says, she asks herself, do I want to go to a movie right now? If she doesn't feel like going to a movie, she said, honey, I would love to go to a movie with you, but not at this time.
It's interesting because I'm trying to find myself, like that that whole self that doesn't need anything from the needy basis. And I know you know what I'm talking about. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's nice to have a partner. It's nice to have love. It's nice to have finances. I'm not ignorant of those things.
Mhm.
But yes, on a vibrational level, that's where I want to be before I enter into anything in life. And that's the challenge, the irony of all of this is that I'm here speaking to you because this is one of my areas of weakness that I struggle in, is public speaking. This was
Mhm.
a mess. I was a basket case at work doing these Zoom calls, and I knew that I was not capable of accepting myself on the deepest level. That's where this stress was rising from, was non-acceptance of myself on the deepest level. And
Right.
so I want to channel, I want to, take myself into all of these triggers, every trigger in my life. My daughter
Perfect.
and I just spoke today about triggers, and we don't want to change our environment. We want our environment to make the changes in here so that I can be more at peace with absolutely everything that life throws at me. And that's really, really scary to the ego, because the ego says, oh, you're asking for a big storm to come your way, and let's see if you can still smile then. But that's what I'm doing. That's the
Perfect.
path.
So even you're going to get to that unconditional love. And this practice, this sadhana that you have with your radiation and everything else, you're going to learn how to get to unconditional love.
Well, I can tell you one thing. You
Mhm.
say the authentic self, huh? Looks like I'll be single for the rest of my life. You know?
Not necessarily. You never know. You never know. And then when you get into the relationship as well, right? You don't look for approval, or it always is, that person is not going to be perfect. Ask Michelle. That person is not. You want to say something, Michelle, about this? You almost have a perfect relationship because both of you are following Eckhart's work. But go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, we
can
don't
wrap it
wear
up.
wedding rings.
Thank you.
We're 35. What is it gonna be? We got married I think we're gonna be 34 years in October. And we
Congratulations.
wear no, yeah, I have my ring. I never wear it. My husband has his ring, never wears it. I go out in public, I don't wear it. We give each other a lot of space to do what each of us likes to do. And our interests may, like, there was a James Taylor tribute concert here. He doesn't like to go. I went with a friend. He's okay with it. Like, we don't have to be, we enjoy each other's company. We have deep conversations, but sometimes our interests coincide and sometimes it doesn't. And you just have to give each other the space to be who they are individually, and he knows I do all of this and he honors that. And he, it's not his thing. He does his own, so there's like a trust that is built over the years. And I think having a very independent streak, like not buying into conditioned expectations from families, because we also come from very different backgrounds, socioeconomic and cultural, and we have a Latin, we're very, we both have my parents are both Latin descendants, and he is, so we speak to each other in Spanish mostly, but I was raised in the States and he wasn't, so he came when he was 29, so there's a lot of differences that we've had to overcome. But I think for me, if I had to say something that I brought to the table, is a lot of compassion. If I would have had the upbringing he had, how would I have responded? So that helped me quite a bit through any pain body. Listen, there's arguments, there's discussions, there's sadness, in a marriage of 30 something years, you have all those aspects. It's not, all rosy, right? But at the end of the day, when you're both kind of on the path and listening, you can talk to each other in certain ways, and know that, oh, I just got triggered, right? I just got triggered. Okay. There's something that you said that really triggered me. And then, And everybody comes from it with their own like way of upbringing, right? Like he was, he was brought up by very masculine male figures, and you work hard and you do hard and there's no nonsense, right? And you get what you, in life, what you put out, discipline, hard work, all of those, right? And so sometimes that comes out in conversations and no nonsense. And I'm like, okay, and I'm more sensitive, I'm more empathetic, I'm more compassionate, right? But then, so there's going to be differences. But I think compassion is such a big piece of, and it's not to say that you don't hold, like I'm in the big things, like the more important things, I'm very centered and grounded, but I don't sweat the small stuff. So like if you want to go here for dinner, so yeah, I don't sweat the small stuff. Like nothing, if it's, I go with the flow. So it makes it also easier because, there's always one that wants to pull in a certain direction, and do certain things a certain way, and, let the resistance go, I don't know. You're always changing, you're always cultivating new skills. And I think that's another thing, you have to want to learn, and you want to be self-inquisitive, contemplative, reflective about, your responses, your conditioned patterns. And if both can work on that, then, it can become a successful relationship. And I always thought, I loved what Eckhart would say, because he also, his parents, his dad was, his father was Spanish, right? Or he went to Spain, but he did speak Spanish, right? So in Spanish, there's a difference between, and it doesn't exist in the English language. So in Spanish, te quiero means there's te quiero y te amo, right? Te quiero is I want you. And te amo means I love you, right? So there's this thing in language that show like, and you usually use te quiero more, right? Meaning I love you, but at the end of the sense, I want you. I want you. So there's this desire attached to that wanting versus the true love, right? So yeah, and there's a respect, for, there's a deep respect, deep compassion.
I got a question for
and
you.
trust. Yeah.
Have you heard the 5 languages of love?
Yeah.
So you got, it's like words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and receiving gifts. Do you guys have similar languages of love or different?
I had to change mine. The acts of gift, we don't even like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, anniversary. It's the everyday. So that's the most important. It's the everyday.
I
And
mean, I
that,
just,
letting go of all those conditioning. And that was hard because my family was deep into all of that, and his family too. So it was like, came on Mother's Day. Okay, now we got to go to my mother's house, his mother. And like here, it got like, it could get tense because he didn't grow up in a culture that celebrated all these different types of, I mean, he grew up in a communist country where you didn't really have these attachments to all these different holidays and all the stuff that goes around it. So I had to loosen my grip on that. And now I just doesn't, it doesn't, we can't go out on my birthday. We don't go out on my birthday. It wasn't, the day didn't flow that way, and I'm not in the mood, and we celebrated another day, it just, that's like, you have to loosen the grip.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you for your input.
Mm-hmm.
So grateful, incredible. So when you said te amo and I love you, I remember Luis House asked Eckhart Tolle, what is his, when did he find, or what did he find, let me try to think of the question. When did he feel the love the most, right? Recently, when did he feel love, right? So he says, Eckhart's response is, oh, I went to a restaurant, or it was like a restaurant or a, maybe a restaurant or a DoorDash person or whatever. Like it was a very general interaction. He said, when I went there and the waiter came, the exchange of presence with the waiter, I felt the love most.
It wasn't
I mean,
with Kim.
we would think that he would say, "Oh, I fell in love with Kim, or Kim did this," and that was no. He said, and that's the unconditional. He gives that example. He's exemplary in this example of unconditional love, right? That you are experiencing unconditional love, no matter where you are. Where do you need Kim Ing, or where do you need Stephen Mitchell? You are that. Right? And whoever is with you, you're in love with them in that moment. Like I'm in love with all of you in this moment. Now, next moment, maybe something else will happen. But that's what you experienced during the healing, right? This love, this unconditional love that pours out. And it's available to all of us that we love, right? Get to that love, pour out that love, and then you will attract the right kind of love, because any other type of love, the Taquero kind of love, will attract like some kind of polarity where there's going to be loss and gain. The moment it's an egoic love, there's going to be gain and loss, and you'd find some kind of little attribute in that person. Oh, I don't like that. I cannot be with that person, right? So you don't want to be in that situation. So have that unconditional love. I really, really love Eckhart's and response to Louis House's. I was just like waiting, right? It's coming when I fell in love, right? So the question was, recently, when did you experience this feeling of love? And he just said it was like the waiter and the exchange with the waiter. On that note, with that unconditional love, I know it's getting late for Patricia. We all need to, I woke up at 3:50 a.m. automatically without my alarm going off. So even I'm a little bit tired today. So many blessings, much love, incredibly amazing session. Thank you so much for choosing your divinity over your humanity. I am so, so grateful, eternally grateful to all of you. I know Christina was with us online, and Summer as well. And everyone else is responding. Vinci and folks are responding online as well. So thank you. Have a good night. Much love. Bye.